Welcome back to Chicago Independent Television. We now continue with InformaNation, a film by the Alternative Military Service Network, critical of military recruitment.
Life in the military is not quite what the recruiter tells you.
Recruiters go in there, walking around, talking to people, having seminars. It'll be an everyday thing to see Army personnel walk through our school trying to recruit people.
I'm 17.
16. Our school, I mean, they would like broadcast like a news channel, and for every commercial, all you ever saw was the Marines.
They try to challenge you, like, are you up to the challenge? Like, can you be all that you can be? And they try to like, they just like have these tricky ways into getting you to join just to become pawns. Like, they don't understand that they're a quota. They're just like a quota to be met at the end of the month.
Arlington West, it gives me a sense of hope. This is like the love of humanity for humanity.
A very, very large concern for families is the thought of a draft, and it would include females, and it also would not excuse anyone who went to college or who sought a higher education. There's a law called Leave No Child Behind that mandates school districts to turn over the personal information, the names, the addresses, and the phone numbers of students unless they opt out. That is, unless they have a form that states that they don't want their names given.
Many people, the reason they go in the military is so that they can go to school. Hey, that can happen, because I know people who do go to school using funds, but it doesn't happen as easily and as much as you're told. It's difficult, especially when you're on active duty, to actually be able to go to school, because what takes precedent is not you going to school, but you completing whatever that mission is the unit has.
Signed up for the SAT before you went to college, yes? Did you do it online or by paper? Online? Remember the box that said, wish to be contacted by colleges and others? Guess who and others are? In the delayed entry program, it's a buy now, pay later arrangement. You sign up for the military, you don't have to report until down the pike. So often what happens is, recruiter comes to the high school, January, February, all your college applications are in. You're waiting. You haven't heard. Even if you're a smart guy, you're nervous. And if you're not the brightest bulb on the tree, you're really nervous. And the recruiter comes to you and says, look, you know, what are you worrying about? You want to become an engineer? Join the military. You can become an engineer. You'll get money for school. You don't have to start right away. We can sign you up. If this great engineering program, we count it backwards. If you start basic in September, when all your buddies are going off to college, you go off to basic, you'll be learning engineering, they'll be learning engineering, but here's the difference. You'll be getting paid. They'll have to pay for that education. You'll get it, and then when you get out of the military, it'll have money up to $70,000. Did you know it's up to $70,000 now? What a deal. What a deal.
Why do people who make under $20,000 a year have to die for people that make over $20,000 a year just so they can go to school? Because these kids join so they can get money to go to college because their families can't afford it. And now some of them are dead.
Unfortunately, there are many recruiters who are less than honorable in the way that they try to get people into the military. And I think there are a number of factors for that. You have people that are dishonest and don't care about the truth. So you have recruiters who are like that. The nature of recruiting as well is to sell a product, which is the military. So it's just like selling a car or whatever it is that you're trying to sell. You're going to sell the points that you think people want to hear, and the things that you don't think will get them to come and buy your product, you're not going to tell them. So that's another factor. Another thing is right now, and I think this is because people understand that this war is wrong, people are not signing up like they did in the numbers before people started to come to this conclusion. So the military is putting pressure on the recruiters to get their numbers. And if you're a person who works, maybe many of you young people might not know this yet, but if you're a person who's in the office and you work and your boss is starting to put pressure on you, many times you get put into a position where you feel like, well, I have to do this in order to keep my job. And that's a tough position to be in. So that contributes to it as well. But make no mistake, there are some liars out there that no matter what the situation is, they're going to lie. But there are many good people who are recruiters who are put in very bad situations, and they make bad decisions. They make decisions that they feel like they have to make, which they really don't have to make. And they're not willing, some of them are not willing to be brave and stand up for what's right. So there's a lot of factors as to why. So that's the reason I say to you that you have to go out and talk to a lot of people and do not just listen to a recruiter. You have to talk to a wide variety of people to get the truth so that you can make an informed decision, not one from just one side. And that's just a smart thing to do no matter what you're doing. But it's the best thing to do when your life, we're talking about your life, you possibly killing someone, because that's what the military does. It's about taking people's lives or your life being taken. So get as much information as you can.
My son died in Iraq on March 27 in 2003. He was the first Marine died in this immoral war. And the government lied me about what happened to my son. The government told me the first Jesus died when received the shot in the head in combat with the enemy fire. But I find it true, and the truth is very different. Jesus died when he stepped the American cluster bomb. There's a lot of boys here, a lot of names, beautiful boys, younger, very younger, 19, 20, 21 years only. I lost more than 600 sons. And I defend my family. And my family is the 1,000 boys in Iraq right now. And we need to come back home as soon as possible. And the 1,000 Iraqi children died. For what? For liberation? No. The recruiting go to inside the school and lie the boys about the benefits for a school, benefits for anything, and this one is not true. The boys not receive the money for a school. This money is for the own salary. My son pay every month $100 for a scholarship. It's not from the government. It's very important. The old people in America stand. This is the real face for the war.
By the time this child graduates from high school, her brain will have absorbed 350,000 television commercials, 100,000 alcohol ads, and a daily barrage of sex and violence. If that doesn't turn you off, then nothing will. A message from the Media Foundation.
Welcome back to Chicago Independent Television. We now continue with InformaNation, a film by the Alternative Military Service Network, critical of military recruitment.
Well, to start off being perfectly honest, I'm tired. This is the seventh meeting Lou and I have done in 4 days. And it's even more tiring for me because every day I'm talking about the things that keep me awake at night. The fact that I know because of the actions myself and my friends took while we were in Iraq, innocent civilians died. The people you saw were killed because of my actions. And there's thousands of other American and British troops who are dealing with the exact same thing. I lay awake at night because I know if I go to sleep, I'll have nightmares of rocky children whose lives have been shattered. Those things will haunt us until our dying day. And because we want not another person to go through this, because we do not want to see another Iraqi die in a needless war over oil, we formed Iraq Veterans Against the War to make sure that these things do not continue, they do not happen again.
The New York Times reports 1 out of 6 are suffering from psychological trauma. And these problems are expected to get even worse as more of them return home.
There's a heavy price that many people pay when they go into the military. I know people who have post-traumatic stress disorder, and they're afraid to go outside during the daytime. If they have to go to the hospital to get treatment, they will leave very early in the morning. And if let's say their treatment is at 10 o'clock, so they'll leave before sunup to get there. The treatment might be over at 12. They'll stay at the hospital until it's nighttime, and then they'll go home. And so the question would be, is that a chance you want to take? Because it's not like this is 1 or 2 people. This might happen to you.
Of the 251 Gulf War veterans who participated in a Veterans Administration study, 60% of them have now had babies born with birth defects.
One thing that the government insists that bothers me is they say, oh, there's no genetic effect caused by exposure to radiation. Yet in my study, 20% said that they had children or grandchildren who had some kind of problem at birth. Either they were mentally retarded, or they had neurological problems, or they had some kind of a problem with their internal organs.
The absence of eyes or ears, the fusing of fingers.
The problem with radiation is that although you can't see it, feel it, hear it, or taste it, it does tremendous harm to you. And you're not always aware of it immediately, because sometimes there's a delay of a number of years, up to 20, 30 years, before the after effects show. My daughter, who was conceived about a year after I was exposed, all through her teenage years, had problems with her endocrine system. Ultimately, she eventually developed a brain tumor at the age of 46 and died because of that. Her daughter was born with a deformed foot. There's no history in the family of any of those things. When my granddaughter got married, she came to me and she said, "Grandpa, should I have children?" And that's kind of a difficult question for somebody to be faced with. What do you tell a child like that?
This is a little American boy. His daddy was in the first Gulf War. He had children that were normal. Now he's got Jason here. They finally made a pair of false legs, you know, prosthesis that he could use. And you don't realize it, but without arms to balance yourself when you are walking, it is almost difficult, and that is the hardest job for him to learn.
Unfortunately, we have leaders that take advantage of people's patriotism and take advantage of people's dedication to our country. Many of these leaders don't care about you or your life. So instead of using war as a last resort, it's the first or second resort. They think of it as a tool to further their own aims instead of using it to protect us. So what we have to do, we have to come up with ways so that we don't have to use war. That's very different from me saying, oh, we just can't use war. You know, I'm not going to say we should, but at the same time, we have to look for ways not to have to do that. And right now, we're not. I mean, it's really that simple. We're not doing that, and we need to.
We heard from Casey's sergeant. He was also Casey's best friend in the military. He told us that he was the one that put together the mission that our son was killed on. He told my son he didn't have to go. And my son said, where my chief goes, I go. He said, Cindy, I'm never going to be able to tell you how sorry I am because I promised your son I would bring him home alive. And Casey told me that his sergeant said that. He goes, Mom, my sergeant said you don't have to worry because he's going to bring me home alive. And the sergeant told me, he goes, Cindy, if I live to be 100, I won't be able to tell you how sorry I am because I failed my mission. Just whenever I think of him, I think of what he's going to be going through the rest of his life, that his best friend died in his arms.
Lost my job and joined the Army to get an education, and I most surely did. Wanted to have some kind of steady job, lead a decent life, support me and my wife and kid. First I was based in Texas, then it was off to Germany, then they sent us to Iraq. So many ruined buildings, so many burned up bodies, and twisted railroad tracks. We were sent off to Fallujah, told to keep the peace amid such hunger and despair. I was only 21, didn't have a clue what I was doing there. Now they say the war is over and I'm back at home here in the land.
You've been watching Chicago Independent Television, a project of the Chicago Independent Media Center Video Collective. The Independent Media Center is a growing worldwide network of media producers, journalists, citizens, and activists, working to put the media in the hands of everyday people and away from corporate and commercial interests. To learn more, visit our website at chicago.indiemedia.org. There you can find out about upcoming Chicago area events and how to get involved in making your own media, including how to help make this very TV show. Thanks for watching. See you next time.